to take us to 7:50, but marriages. Your child, your preteen, teen, they're watching you. Children's children are the crown to the aged, Proverbs 17:6 says, and parents are the pride of their children. And to me, this verse says it all. And this was a big verse in that book of Raising a Modern Day Knight. Like, this was the author's overarching theme of his whole entire book. And I never really understood this verse until I went through this study of this book with the men that I was with. I mentioned before how Alicia's comment to me, how she asked me, do you realize how much your son loves you? It drew my attention to how my son looks at me. But it wasn't until I actually started going through this study with these guys and I looked back on a photo of my father holding my firstborn son for the first time, right minutes after he was born. Alicia and I spent time with him, and then I took him right out to my father. And this photo of my dad holding my son, and just the look of just pride on his face, like grandpa's here, like this is it. And I'm like, whoa. And it was totally different because I'm not looking at him from the perspective as dad anymore. It's grandpa, right? But I want to focus on this last line. Parents are the pride of their children. We need to remember that our children, our youth, preteens, teens, young adults, they're watching us. Dads, fathers, we especially have a huge role to play in this. And let me say this very, very clearly. I'm hard on fatherhood because I see it. And I see the statistics and all this out there of homes that grow up without fathers. And it breaks my heart. It even causes rage inside of me to see a father who just will stand by the side. So fathers, we have especially a huge role to play in this. How we treat our wife and love our wife matters. We're demonstrating to our sons how to treat a woman, and we're demonstrating to our daughters how a man should treat a woman. They're watching us as parents when we fight. Do you know that? They're watching us when we're fighting. If we're in our room or in the basement, they know. And I'm telling you right now, I hear youth all the time. Their ears are against the doors listening. So if you fight, let me tell you this. Fight in front of your kids. Seriously. Now, I'm not talking about a full-fledged fight. I've seen that in my house growing up, and that's traumatizing. But if you're going to bicker in front of your kids, because the moment that follows is the most important, that is restoration. Parent with relationship in mind. Restore that in front of your children. Remember, again, parent with relationship in mind. Encourage each other. This is a big one. Especially wives towards husbands. Encourage each other. It's absolutely amazing what the teeniest bit of encouragement will do for a man, especially a father. Ever since I've been on this journey with my wife, she mentioned to me a few months ago how much she loves seeing me engage with the kids, and she believes I'm a great dad. And that right there gave me the energy I needed to continue to parent for another 20 years. I need to realize that and remember that. And remember that the good days outweigh the bad days by far. Dads, the best way to show encouragement to your wife is by engaging with your children. She knows she's a good mom. She knows that she is a good mom. Believe me, she knows. Seeing you as a dad engage with your kid, even if it means going outside for a catch on an extremely long day of work, gives her the encouragement to continue through the dirty diapers, messy houses, a bad attitude after school. Fathers, you're tired. I get it. I totally get it. But let me leave you with the best piece of advice I've ever heard. Anyone can be a father, but not anyone can be a dad. Being a dad takes dedication to the Lord first. Lead your home. Be dedicated to the Lord and your family, and watch what happens. This is where two more, sorry. Know what's going on in your kids' minds. I'm only going to touch on this briefly because I could spend a whole hour on this, but kids, when it comes to electronics aren't all bad, but we need to monitor them. Because when they're on the electronics, and especially with where it's going, kids are not engaging in pretend play, and that's the danger. Imaginations are huge. Why let them go by the wayside? No imagination leads to no creativity, Dr. Jordan Peterson would say. How are they going to know what's real and what's not real? Rough play is important, and fathers do it with their kids. That's great, because guess what? That's how they know what hurts and what doesn't hurt. Social media. I just deleted my social media account this past week, and I would say that social media, there's more cons than pros, and I'd be happy to talk about that afterwards, after today. But let me just tell you this when it comes to social media. I believe it's going down a very, very, very dark path, and it's not going to get any better, which is why I would say there's more cons than pros. And the biggest worry and the most active community that's continuing to grow higher and higher on social media is the pornographic community. It's active, it's alive, and it's getting stronger. Number 6. And this is where I'll lead you with today. I'm going to read kind of the closing of Dr. Justin Colson's book here, 10 Things Every Parent Needs to Know. And I always kind of shy away, I don't need to know anything if it's outside of God's word. What are you talking about? But this is where really I started to apply a biblical, godly perspective of parenting to his practice. So I'll read this. In addition to the big ideas I've shared, there's one more thing I believe, There's one more thing I believe every parent needs to know when it comes to child rearing. You are good enough. As a parent who is intentional and devoted, you will feel like a failure a lot. It's inescapable. You will be your own worst critic. Now and then, others might criticize you as well, even if they're well-meaning. Your partner might point out a parenting failure. Your parents or in-laws or even your own child may also highlight a hypocrisy or inconsistency. You'll say you don't care, but it still hurts. Some days will be worse than others, but the feeling of inadequacy, the never-ending question of am I enough, will be present persistently. But hear me when I say you are enough. In the novel 93, French writer Victor Hugo wrote this. She broke the bread into 2 fragments and gave them to her children, who ate with eagerness. The sergeant grumbled, "She kept none for herself." The soldier replied to the sergeant, "Because she's not hungry." "No," said the sergeant, "because she's a mother." It is also impossible to put into words the depth of love that we feel as parents towards our children. As Cordelia explains in Shakespeare's King Lear, when speaking of her love for her parent, "My love's richer than my tongue. I cannot heave my hearts into my mouth." That inexpressible love, I can't even bring it out into words. If you feel that way towards your children, then you're enough. Then you are enough. The endless laundry, the thankless tasks related to maintaining your home, the challenges children provide, each compounds to make us feel like it all might be too much. And Instagram makes it look like everyone else is doing it so well. They get their pre-baby body back in 5 weeks. Their meals all look like they've come from a restaurant kitchen. And they seem to have so much more time to spend doing meaningful activities with their children. The surest way to feel poorly about your parenting is to compare yourself with others, especially when you mostly only get to see their highlight reel. Parenting is as much about the good times on Instagram as it is about those moments you would never want anyone to see. It's about how we respond to the runny noses, the fussy eating, the wet beds, the soiled underwear, or the puddle on the carpet that provides evidence that toilet training still has a way to go. It's about how we respond to the complaints that my legs are sore, I can't walk on tired mornings, all law school jumpers and all law school projects the day before they're due, the never-ending sibling challenges that confront every parent of more than one child. Our response to those micro moments that occur endlessly, day in and day out, set the foundation of our child's lives. As you respond with biblical perspective, as you respond with patience, kindness, understanding, compassion, and a desire to help rather than hurt, you're doing enough. You're doing all that's required. You're growing, you are loving, and you are enough as a parent. You're doing the work that will never be seen by anyone beyond your family, but value the foundation that will last generations. Last point, give me 5 more minutes.